Hey, my friends, this is the Art of Prepping. Thanks for joining me today. Pardon my video quality because I'm filming inside today due to the weather. The weather is pretty bad out right now where I live, and that's just how it is. I just wanted to do a video concerning observations that have been made from myself and from you guys that have sent me messages over the past few weeks. And I don't want people to think that I have ignored those messages. I do read those messages. I just sometimes can't comment on those specific topics sometimes until I have time in a video format. So first off, I just want to say that I agree with people who say that the vast majority of people in Texas and in Florida were unprepared. Some were just underprepared. They had some means of preparation, but a lot of people were just completely unprepared. Like they didn't even start to be prepared. They just expected city, state, and federal resources to save them or to bail them out. A lot of people could have moved out of areas into safer areas, especially non-flood areas in Texas, but they chose not to do that. I'm not saying that everybody should have left or all this stuff. I'm just saying that there are some people who knew that there was a potential flood event that could have happened, and they just stayed put. They sheltered in place instead of leaving a potentially dangerous area. And then those are the people who got landlocked in their home, and because they weren't prepared at all, they didn't have enough fresh water, food, and maybe prescription medicines to get through a few days, and they had to be rescued. And so these are the problems that we see typically in storms, very large storms, that there's always going to be a group of people that don't have their act together. And once again, this video is not to point fingers or to criticize, it's just an observation. And I think that we can learn from observations. I also observed that there were different groups of National Guard members from other states that went down to assist Texas, and they were turned away. Some of these groups were very specialized groups, very specialized, in particular groups that had a lot of medical background, and they were turned away. A lot of them ended up in Florida to help out with the recovery effort from Hurricane Irma. But it was just kind of interesting that there possibly was some miscommunication for Texas to say that they have enough assistance. I thought that was interesting. I also just want to point out that in the first 2 days of Hurricane Harvey, there was 75,000 calls for help. I thought that was quite a bit. The calls did drop off a bit, but that was mainly because people's cell phones died and they didn't have a way to recharge them. So that was interesting. There was also various areas within Texas that have the capability to text message 911, but a lot of people didn't take advantage of that. So that's something that if you have that capability in your area, you might want to use it. It's a lot more efficient. A lot of people underestimated the power of wind and the power of water, in particular the impact on flooding in their area. And so a lot of people didn't think that their area would even flood, but it did. And even at the time of this filming, people are still dealing with that. There's still floods in various areas of Texas. So what I saw is that people that got stuck in their homes, they first ran out of these supplies, and that was clean water, their prescription meds, food, maybe just basic medical care means, maybe like just to bandage themselves if they had a small injury, and hygiene issues. I saw that there's a lot of people that could have lasted a lot longer, but they didn't have the basic essentials to do such. And so if anything, this is a reminder to get yourself in a situation that you could weather storms like this, especially if you live in areas that, even though it's rare, that when you do get hit by, say, a hurricane, that you have the means to mitigate that threat. It's kind of like if you know that things happen or eventually they will happen, why don't you prepare for them? It's like you know that eventually your car will break down. You drive that car enough years, it will break down. That's a guarantee. But people drive their cars until it actually breaks down on the highway, and they wonder why. Well, maybe you didn't do preventative maintenance. Maybe you didn't do this or that. And then they wonder why they don't have a means to overcome the problem. Well, maybe because they don't have a car kit. Maybe they don't have any resources in their vehicle. And then they wonder why they're all of a sudden dependent on others to help or rescue them. So there is a point, though, that you should be in a position, at least in some situations, to self-rescue. And when we're talking about storm systems, it makes a lot of sense to have proactive plans so that you don't have to self-rescue. Maybe you could even call it self-rescue is by leaving the area and by not being involved in the storm. That to me makes a lot more sense than trying to weather the storm and then finding yourself trapped in the storm and then be dependent on others to get out of the mess. So those are my thoughts. What do you think about this? Thanks for watching.